welcome back to my channel. My name is Becky, owner and creator of Quinny's Glitzy Tumblers. Today we're going to be working on a Sunrise Beach Tumbler, or as I'd like to call it, a Tequila Sunrise Beach Tumbler. Here's an example. So I'm going to go ahead and link all the supplies below for you, everything that you're going to need. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start with a tumbler. It's already prepped, it's sanded, washed, and the base is spray painted the flat white Rust-Oleum. The acrylic paints that I'm going to use, and you don't have to use acrylic paints. I'm using acrylic paints because I ran out of my spray paint, but you can use either or. You can use acrylic paints or spray paints as a base. All it is, whether it's spray paints or acrylic paints, all it is a map for you. It's a map so you know where to lay your glitter while you're doing it. So you don't have a problem with over pouring and going crazy. Okay, so we're gonna start with the base of the tumbler. I'm going to be prepping it with Rich Espresso, and these are all deco art. This is a metallic Rich Espresso brown, and then I'm going to go in with my teals that I have that I always use. So I have, for the darker teal, I have Peacock Teal, that's by Deco Art, Light Turquoise, and this is by the Anita's Hobby Lobby brand, Light Turquoise. And then for my actual sunset part, so for the very start of the sunset, in the very center right here, that is going to be a thinner line, skinnier line. You're not going to paint a ton of it pink. So for that, I'm using both the Deco Art Pink Tourmaline metallic paint, and I'm mixing this with a little bit of the Martha Stewart Magenta, and that's just to kind of lighten it up a little bit. And then for the very top of our tumbler, I'm going to be using the Martha Stewart Solar Flare. And it's kind of a really pretty, really pretty kind of coral orange. So I'm going to go ahead and get started really quick. Okay, the very base of it, I'm going to go ahead and go in and paint the brown. This is just for the sand. I chose a darker brown color. And for the sand part, I don't like it to be a huge portion of the cup. For the sand part, I love when the sand part is a little bit smaller, because I feel like we really want to see that ocean and sunset. So I'm just going to go around and I'm just painting on the brown. And this is just a little roadmap for us so that we know, mapping it out so that we know when we go to glitter it exactly where we want our glitter poured. I have several of these to do, so I figured I might as well jump on here and get them knocked out. Okay, so that is, make sure all of it is painted brown. And these don't have to be super straight or defined lines, because nothing is, in real life, nothing is straight and defined. It's just a map so we know where to lay down our glitter. Okay, so that is, I might bring it up a tiny bit more actually, just a tiny bit more, because I'm working with a 30-ounce skinny, so it's taller than my 20-ounce skinny. So I'm just bringing the beach up a tiny bit more, because the 30-ounce skinny is significantly longer than the 20-ounce skinny. Okay, so there is the beach. There's the bottom, the beach part. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and go in and I'm going to paint my ocean part. Now I'm going to start with the dark teal on the bottom, closest to the ocean, or sorry, closest to the sand. I'm just going to do the dark teal. Just doing this real quick. I know that's my biggest question that everybody asks me. Why don't you put your tumbler on something? I mean, I don't have a problem doing it this way. I'm so used to doing it this way. I don't normally mess it up. I don't normally touch any colors. I've become a pro, but all my arms are being used. Guys, I'm busy 24/7 with orders, and I wish I had more arms, but it seems like every time I order more arms or every time my husband makes me another turner, it's still not enough. I get twice as many orders, then 3 times as many orders, and I'm just like swamped. Okay, so there is my dark teal. Okay, now I'm gonna go in with the light teal. Pour a little more light teal on here. And I actually got 4 more orders this morning when I woke up. I woke up to orders, so. Okay, so now I'm gonna go in with the light teal, and I'm just going to brush that in. And since my dark teal is still wet, I'm just going to use them to blend each other. Slowly going back up and down. Not over blending, but I'm just going to kind of blend the middle together like this. I prefer to use my paintbrush and dip it in 2 colors, but my dark teal is still wet, so I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it to my advantage. Okay, so dark teal, light teal mixed. Sorry, I'm just going in with a little bit more. There's some empty spots. I just want to make sure I get them all. Okay, and then I'm gonna go in next with my pinks. I put both that dark pink and light pink together. I'm just gonna kind of mix it a little bit. In this area of the sunset, this section of the sunset is where the ocean meets the sunset. The pink, I'm not going to make a super large area for that. That's just where the water and sunset start. So I'm gonna go ahead and go in with a little bit of pink. Going with a little bit of pink, Just rotating my tumbler and getting it all around. And when I'm done doing this, I do not typically seal my acrylic paints. They stick pretty well. I don't have any problems with them coming off. So I just go right into glittering. Okay, so there is the pink. Now I'm gonna go in with my orange, and this was called Solar Flare, which is kind of perfect. Sun. Okay, so I'm going in with the orange, the Solar Flare, and I'm just going to brush that on the top. And I'm gonna keep brushing and blend it down into the pink that I have going here. Just slowly turning as I go. I'm gonna brush on the orange first, and then I'm gonna slowly blend it into the pink. Now, like I said, to get a good blend, I have a tip and trick. So they're not like super straight defined lines, you know, so your colors aren't just orange, pink, whatever. I typically go in with my sponge brush, cleaning it off right now. I go in with my sponge brush and I dip one corner of it in the orange and one color in the pink. Those are the two colors that I want blending. So I'm gonna dip one side in the orange, I'm gonna dip the other side in the pink, and I'm just gonna kind of dab it off a little bit so it's not super saturated. And I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna slowly brush it between those two colors. Slowly, slowly, slowly brush it between those colors. And this gives it more of a mixed look. It just gives it more of a softer look. So it's not just blocked colors. Okay. So see how the orange and pink is more blended? You just continue to do that until it's blended. Until it's blended like you like it. Going around my whole tumbler, slowly but surely. Okay, so that is the base of these painted. This is just a road map. I have acrylic paint everywhere. This is just a road map for where we're going to put our glitters. So I will let this dry. Okay, so now I'm gonna move on to, this is our Tequila Sunrise Beach Tumbler. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a thin layer of epoxy on this one. Slowly but surely work its way around. Okay, so there is that. I'm gonna take my glove off and we're gonna go right in to the glittering. That's done, that's done. Okay, so now that we have a very thin layer of epoxy covering our whole tumbler, I'm going to go in and start blending my colors. Now, like with the other one, and like with the Gypsy Leopard tutorials that I did, I'm gonna do the same exact thing with this one. I'm going to sprinkle my glitters from high, and I'm gonna be doing very, very light layers each time that I do it. That way I just ensure that everything is blended and everything is nice. And I'm actually gonna start from the bottom and work my way up. So we're gonna start with the gold. I have this gold. This is just one of those bags of gold from Michael's, the Spin It brand, I believe is what it's called, Spin It brand. So I'm gonna go ahead and go in with this, and I'm slowly going to sprinkle. Slowly sprinkle from up high. The thinnest layer, you want to be able to still see your tumbler underneath. So seriously, the very thinnest layer you can do. And we're just gonna keep doing thin layers until it's all blended, and then we'll go in with a thick layer of each glitter and dump them on there to make sure we cover up the empty spots. Sprinkling a little at a time, just turning my tumbler as I go. You're just gonna sprinkle and you're gonna bring it up into the teal, just a very tiny bit into the teal. Very, very tiny bit into the teal. And I'm gonna go ahead and cover the bottom because we're not trying to blend anything on the bottom. completely cover the bottom so that I don't have to worry about that part. And these Sunrise tumblers, you can really do any color you want. I found a picture off the internet. I Googled sunset, sunrises, and a picture came up and I was like, that is the sunset slash sunrise that I want to make. That is the one I want to make for my tumblers. Okay, so there's that. Now we're gonna go in. I'm gonna go in, I have both Weekend at Bernie's, that dark teal. I have Courage, which is also a dark teal, but it's a little bit chunkier. So I have a fine and chunky. I also have 10, 12, 13. As we go up, we're gonna start to get lighter. And I have a Mojito, and this is a chunkier. So basically I have a fine and a chunky for the darker teal, and a fine and a chunky for the lighter teal. So I'm gonna start with the dark teal first, and I'm gonna start with my chunky glitter. I'm gonna start with the Courage. I'm gonna start with the chunky glitter and put my chunky glitter on there, and when I go back through, I'm going to sprinkle in the finer glitter. So going in with the chunky glitter from Peachy Olive Glitters called Courage, yeah. And very light layers of this also, nothing crazy. Nothing crazy at all. Guys, I have been working out every day, and I feel like my arm's gonna fall off right now holding this tumbler. Like, I feel like it's a workout in itself right now because my arms hurt. That's how you know you need to work out, when it kills your arm holding a tumbler. Okay, so there's that. And I put such a thin layer of glitter that I don't have to worry about anything falling off this first go round. Okay, so I'm gonna set that aside. I'm gonna move on to my chunky light teal glitter, which is the Mojito. And I'm gonna do the chunky part. So I'm just gonna very, very lightly sprinkle this, nothing crazy. I want to still be able to see my tumbler underneath. That's how light of a layer we're going. My guinea pigs, I think, are fighting. I don't know what they're doing. Okay, super, super light layer. Super light layer. Keep going, spinning my tumbler as I go. And like with all the glitters, I'm going to sprinkle a very tiny bit overlapping into the next color, the tiniest amount. Okay, so there is that. Got the Mojito going. Put the excess back in its container. Okay, now I'm going to go in. I have both. For the pink, I have what is called Sweetie Pie from Peachy Olive, and it is a lighter pink glitter, but it has a gold kind of orange shift to it. And then for the gold, I have, or gold orange, I have what's called Cheesy Poofs, and this is from Peachy Olive Glitters as well, and it's more of a orangish yellowish color. Okay, so I'm going to go in with the Sweetie Pie first, the pink, and I'm going to very, very lightly sprinkle. Nothing crazy. I'm going to bring it down into the teal and up into the orange. Just a very tiny bit. Very, very tiny bit. Okay, so that is it for that one. And I don't know if you can see, but it has a really pretty orange shift to it. See it in the light? It's pink, but it has a really pretty orangish shift to it. So I was like, that is perfect for a sunset. Kelly, I have a new work schedule now, and I have a new grandson to get to see 3 weeks. Oh, you get to see him in 3 weeks? And your other one is 4.5 months, and one is almost 3. And maybe work on cups. Maybe work on cups. I know, that's how I am. I'm like, okay. I get done with my whole entire day with the kids, with my other businesses, with everything. And usually at the end of the night, that's when I work. And I'm like, can I put it off one more day? No, not really. Not really. Okay, so I'm going to go in with my cheesy poofs. And I'm going to sprinkle that. Ooh, I kind of dumped that part. I'm going to sprinkle that slowly, 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 slowly. Starting a little bit into the pink and slowly moving it up. Very light layer, nothing crazy. Just putting a light layer. Okay. Very, very pretty. And even this cheesy poofs, it's a pretty funny name. It is such a pretty, pretty color. Like, it's such a good mix of yellow, orange, iridescent-y. Okay, so I'm gonna close that. I'm gonna go back down with my gold. This layer is going to be light, a little bit heavier than the last, but still light because we still want to make sure that it's blended really well. I'm going to sprinkle lightly up into the teal, just a very tiny bit. I'm going to bring it a tiny bit up into the teal. Can you guys see how lightly I'm sprinkling this? Like hardly anything is falling. Very, very lightly. Okay, now that we're starting to do a little bit thicker layers, I'll start to tap off the excess so I don't mix my colors, my glitters together. Put that back in. We'll come back to that. Gonna go back in with my darker teal. This time I'm going to work my thinner cut glitter, my fine glitter, Weekend at Bernie's. I'm gonna mix this one into it. I started with the Courage, which was a thicker dark teal. Now I'm gonna go to the fine cut glitter. So now I'm gonna start with Weekend at Bernie's, and I'm gonna very lightly pour it over. Meet halfway, slowly but surely. And by putting the chunky glitter on first and then slowly putting the finer glitter on, it's just giving it more texture. Tap the excess off. Then I'm going to move in with my lighter teal. now I have so I used Mojito first, which was a chunkier cut. Now I'm gonna move to my finer cut, which is 10, 12, 13, and it's a light teal as well, light minty color. And I'm just gonna slowly sprinkle this, starting a little bit in the dark teal and moving its way up. Turning the cup as I go. Turning the cup as I go. Going a little bit below the light teal. We're going a little bit into the dark teal. But we just want to blend it. Okay, I'm gonna top the excess off. Can you see the blending starting to happen? You guys see that? It's not a harsh line between the dark teal and the light teal. There's no harsh lines. It's starting to all come together. And by doing your glitters super slow, you achieve that look, a blended look, rather than a chalky look. Okay, I'm gonna pour leftovers back in the container. Okay, now I'm gonna go back in with Sweetie Pie, which is the pinkish gold shift. And I'm gonna start pouring that. Slowly but surely. And this one, what I'm going to do now, because I want this to look a little more blended than what it is, I'm gonna start lightly sprinkling this Sweetie Pie. And I'm gonna keep sprinkling up into the, I wanna sprinkle it up into the cheesy poofs, the yellow-orange color. And I'm sprinkling, seriously, the smallest amount, but I'm going all the way up. All the way up, slowly but surely. All the way up. So the top is cheesy poofs, and I already had a layer of that underneath this. But I want to give this more of a sunset look. So I'm just going to sprinkle the Sweetie Pie and bring it up very lightly, bring it up into the cheesy poofs. I'm going all the way to the top. Can you see me working my way to the top? Okay, so I sprinkled the Sweetie Pie. And the Sweetie Pie already has an orangish shift to it. So by mixing these, it's not super like throwing it off. It already has like an orange shift to it. So it goes perfect into the cheesy poofs color. Stephanie, Sweetie Pie is extremely pretty. It's a very pretty glitter. In person, like I can't even explain it. It's such a pretty pink. Okay, so now I'm gonna go in with the cheesy poofs. Stephanie, did you get a Peachy palette today? I missed it. No, I didn't. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear about your brother-in-law's funeral. No, I didn't. I was very busy. I had a very long day with my kids, my grumpy little babies. They were not having today. So I got to do absolutely nothing for myself. Okay, so I'm going in with the cheesy poofs. And what I'm gonna do, because I sprinkled such a light layer of the Sweetie Pie, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to start at the top, the very top, and I'm slowly gonna sprinkle this down. Come on, I don't wanna pour too much. Very light layer. I'm slowly gonna sprinkle this down into the Peachy Pie now. And it's going to give it that, really blended, pretty look. I'm just barely sprinkling it into the peachy pie, starting from the top, sprinkling down. Okay, so there is that. Can you guys see this? How blended it is? How pretty? There's the only harsh line that there's really going to be is between the teal and this. The teal and the sunset. That's the ocean. But even then, we're gonna go in and dump our colors on so it'll look a lot nicer. Okay. Hi, Catherine. Okay. I'm gonna put the excess back in its place. Okay, so now we're going to be pouring a heavier coat of everything. We're on our third round. We're gonna pour a heavier coat. So I'm gonna go back in with the gold. I'm gonna bring it up into the teal. Bring it up into the teal. Just the base of the teal. We're just bringing it a little bit to the base of the teal to get that more blended. Okay. Top off the excess. I'm going to put that back in its container. And then I'm going to go in with my Weekend at Bernie's. And I'm going to pour that a little heavier. I'm going to bring it a tiny bit up into the light teal and a tiny bit down into the gold. Turning the cup as I go. Okay, there is that. We are done with Weekend at Bernie's. Angela, thank you. Tanya, is Cheesy Poop and Sweetie Pie fine or a little chunkier? It's fine glitter. Both of them are fine glitters. I wanted to give the ocean part a more textured look, and then the sunrise, I wanted it to be a softer look. I didn't want it to have the chunky in it at all. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back in with the Peachy Olive Glitters, 10, 12, 13, the light minty teal. And I'm gonna start pouring that heavier, making sure to cover up all of my epoxy that is showing. I'm going to bring it down into the darker teal and up a tiny bit into the pink. Tap off the excess, pour it back in its container. Okay, and now I'm going to go in with Sweetie Pie. And I'm going to start at the base of the light teal and work my way up. I'm only bringing this halfway up into the cheesy poofs. The cheesy poofs in Sweetie Pie is already blended. This is just, this layer of glitter, this round of glitter is just basically if there's any open spots that still have epoxy that's bare, that's all this layer is doing, is covering up those last tiny little spots. My cup is already blended, so we're just pouring extra glitter on there to make sure everything is covered. Tap that off. Goodbye, Sweetie Pie. We're done with that one. And we're gonna do our last layer of cheesy poofs, starting from the top, pulling it towards the bottom. Pulling it into the Sweetie Pie, into the pink color. And if you guys want to find the names of these glitters, I will save this video so you can hear it again, but the names of the glitters are posted on the live video information. That post that I posted giving you times and materials. The names of them are posted on that, so you can go back and click on those. Tap off the excess. And girlfriend, I think we did a pretty good job this time. So I'm gonna go in on my Tequila Sunrise Tumbler, and let's see the colors that I am using on this for my acrylic paints. I already did a nice decent layer of epoxy over this, and it's been spinning. And the acrylic paints that I'm going to swirl over it tonight are my white, of course, is just a basic white acrylic paint, nothing special about that. I'm gonna mix a little bit of that with epoxy. Then I have my light teal, my light turquoise by the Anita's brand acrylic, and this is at Hobby Lobby. I'm gonna mix a little bit of that with epoxy. And then I have my dark teal, my peacock teal by Deco Art. And I'm gonna mix a little bit of that with epoxy. So I have everything going slowly but surely. I'm gonna make sure that all of this is mixed together. And all I'm going to do is I'm gonna swirl my colors, slowly swirl them over the cup. And like I said, as I do it, it's the same way that I do all my other tumblers, my Milky Ways and everything. I grab a little bit of it, and as I pull the popsicle stick away from the cup, I'm going to string it over the cup. So I'm going to start with my dark teal first. And I'm not going to do too many, not too many, just a couple lines here and there. And this is the easiest way that I have found to swirl cups. It gives it a cleaner look instead of just one big messy line. Okay, so that's it for my dark teal. That's all I'm going to do. This is just going to be used to accent the cup. It's nothing super crazy. It's just going to accent the colors and kind of bring everything together. So now I'm going to go in with my light teal, and this has been mixed with a little bit of epoxy, and I'm going to do the same exact thing. Right where the light teal is, I'm going to put a couple lines across it, No rhyme or reason, just wherever you think it looks good. And I'm gonna bring it a little bit down into the dark teal. Now, as you guys can see, as I strung it across, some of it got kind of blobby, so all I'm going to do is take a popsicle stick and I'm going to let it run around. Just going to break up those little blobs, making sure that there's nothing too, no chunky lines in there. I want everything to flow together really nicely. So I'm just going to let my popsicle stick run over it. Okay, now I'm going to take my popsicle stick and I'm going to make a couple swirls to kind of break it up so it's not just back and forth lines. I'm just going to do a couple swirls. And then I'm going to do the same thing, kind of break up my dark teal. Just do a couple little lines, a couple little up and down swirls. Nothing crazy. And it looks a little weird right now, but don't worry. Once we hit it with the heat gun, it's all going to start moving and we won't even have to worry about that. So now I'm going to go in with my white and I'm going to slowly put it in the very, very top of the gold. I don't want to bring it too far down in the gold. Just on the top of the gold and where the water meet. Where the sand and water meet is where you want that white, like the waves are breaking. I don't want to put too much. And it's okay if you have some chunky places. Like I said, all you have to do is go over it with a heat gun. So I'm going to take my little guy right here that I have, and this is just like a little butter spreader, but I'm going to take it and I'm going to run it through my white. Slowly run it through my white, and as I do this, I'm actually going to wipe it off, that way I don't mix the teal into the white. Starting from the bottom, dragging up. Starting from the bottom, dragging up. And do this part very slowly. Do it slowly. There's no rush on things. Do it slowly. See where you want to add more waves. See where you want to really accent it. Because it's all preference. Some people like it a lot more into the sand. Some people like it a lot more into the water. Okay, so I'm going to go back in with my little guy. And I'm just kind of going to do a couple swirls, drag my white around. Just to kind of break it up. Because I see some chunky places that I don't necessarily like, and I don't like when the acrylic paint is chunky on it. I'm going to do a little bit more. I'm going to let it run around, and I'm going to hit where I just dropped that. And as I'm doing this, I like to, like I said, I like to make little swirls. So I do a motion like up and swirl at the top like a wave. I like to just give it some texture so it's not just sitting there. Let me make sure that I like where this is. I'm going to bring a couple whites down, drag them down. Okay, so I think I'm pretty happy with that. There's one part in the teal that I see that I want to mix up a little bit, so there's not as much paint in one spot. And the reason why I like using this little butter spreader is because I can use it on the acrylic. I can use it on the very side to where it's a thin line, or if I'm trying to scrape some of the acrylic paint off, or if I see that there's a blob somewhere or something, maybe a line of acrylic paint that I want to thin out, I can turn it more flat to where I can actually scrape the acrylic paint off. If I find a place that I'm not happy with where I placed it, I can take it off. So it's nice to work with this. I can drag the acrylic paints across with the side of it like a blade, or I can use the flat side and completely take off an area that I don't like. So I found that this is very handy. This is not what it was for. I was given these from a little garage sale, I think. Somebody got them for me, but I ended up using them for crafting. Okay, so now I'm gonna go in. You guys see everything going on down here. I'm gonna go ahead and go in with my heat gun and just start warming it up a little bit so that everything starts to run. And the more these start to spin and the more these start to move around, you will see that the colors will lighten up. They won't be as pigmented as they are right now. They're all starting to run beautifully. Pushing the light teal up, pointing my heat gun up so that I push the light teal more up. And at this point, if there is still a place that you don't necessarily like, you can go back in with your popsicle stick or whatever you're using, and you can break it up. As it spins, it'll correct itself wherever you used it. Go ahead and do a couple more in the light teal. There's just a couple places that I want to kind of separate that I don't necessarily like. And it's super easy to fix these. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to natural waves, right? So and kind of do what you want and get a feel for how you want it. Oops, that's too high. Just on a low heat setting. Okay, starting to spread out and they're starting to look more like waves. Starting to look more like waves, and they're starting to really soften up and actually give it some depth and look less like acrylic paints. They all turned out beautiful. This is awesome.